Welcome to FlavorScience from FlavorSome, where we explore some of the formulation and flavor challenges that brands face with food and beverage product development. Welcome, everyone. I'm Lisa Jackson, Director of Marketing at FlavorSome. Thanks for joining me today. Over the next 30 to 35 minutes, we're going to explore FlavorSome's 2026 cultural outlook and the flavor experiences that people are seeking across food and beverages. So 2 notes before we begin. You will receive a copy of the slides and the recording when we conclude. And if you have any questions about the insights shared today, please submit them using the Q&A feature in the Zoom platform. So at the heart of today's discussion is one simple truth that we're pretty familiar with. Flavor is a bridge. Whether you're developing a functional protein shake, a sparkling water, a seasonal donut, or an ice cream novelty, flavor is what connects nutrition science, cultural values, and everyday enjoyment. We'll start with why flavor is becoming more decisive for North Americans, and then spend most of our discussion talking about the cultural signals that are shaping expectations in 2026. We'll close with some ideas about how to connect those signals to product innovation, and then we'll save time at the end for Q&A. So let's begin by looking at the long-term data on what drives food and beverage choices. This chart is from the International Food Information Council. They've tracked this over time, and it compares purchase drivers from 2006 to 2025. What stands out is the consistent importance of taste. It's number one over the past 20 years. It's remained stable, with about 85% of people ranking taste the top priority affecting their choices, well ahead of other factors like price, healthfulness, convenience, or sustainability. Now, price has increased in importance. It's moved from 64% of people saying it's very important to 71%. It does reflect the inflationary pressures that we've all seen. But even with that shift, taste still sits firmly at the top. The key takeaway here is that no matter what else changes in the marketplace, economic shifts, health trends, sustainability pressures, flavor remains a deciding factor for trial, repeat, and loyalty. Now, here's where the story becomes a little bit more interesting. While taste has always mattered, today it's becoming even more decisive because the pressures people face in this moment. So first is this idea of affordability. It's a requirement. According to the Gardner Food and Agricultural Policy Survey, shopper perception that the U.S. food system produces affordable food has dropped from nearly 60% in 2022 to about 50% in 2025. The study was done earlier this year. I suspect if it was done today, you'd see that number drop even lower. A PricewaterhouseCoopers survey showed that 43% of North Americans describe food prices as prohibitively high. This means that shoppers are really scrutinizing their purchases, as you know. Flavor can help justify the spend, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. 2025 research from Dalhousie University revealed that about a third of Canadians will actually switch brands if they believe they'll get a better taste. So even in a value-pressured market, taste is still powerful enough to drive switching. And turning to foods and beverages for comfort really does remain part of the decision-making process. Innova research shows that about a third of Americans identify indulgence as an important attribute when choosing foods and beverages. And Data Essential tells us that 60% crave snacks or drinks specifically when they're seeking comfort. In other words, flavor is the emotional payoff that makes eating and drinking worthwhile. So while taste is always ranked high and highest, today's affordability pressures, the brand switching behaviors, and the desire for comfort are making it even more effective and more decisive. It's not just an expectation. Flavor is the reason people choose, re-choose, and stay loyal. Now, even in functional nutrition, where health claims should carry the most weight, taste still decides. A recent review in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health showed flavor strongly influences functional food choices. And survey data confirms that even when people want health benefits, they expect the experience to be just as good as their everyday favorites. And in supplements and oral nutrition products, flavor still decides adherence. In one study, about 2/3 of participants ranked taste as the most valued attribute. That tells us that flavor is non-negotiable at the product level for functional foods and drinks. So even when health benefits are the draw, taste still decides whether people will buy it and actually use the product. But there's more to the story than flavor. Flavor isn't just about masking or delivering taste. Flavors are infused with meaning, emotions, and connections. So to understand where innovation is headed and the role that flavor is going to play, we needed to zoom out to the cultural signals shaping what people crave in 2026. These signals are going to help us understand not just what shoppers say they want, but how broader economic, social, and technological changes are going to influence their choices. So let's start with value. Shoppers are really feeling the squeeze, as you probably are yourself, from higher prices. But we also know that everyone's reluctant to give up on quality. People are looking for products that balance affordability with the nutrition or the indulgence that they want. So this dynamic is really a big contributing factor to the growth that we've seen in private brand innovation. Innova reports a significant gain in private brand launches in the last year. And over the last 5 years, store brand launches had a 4% compound annual growth rate through the end of last year, while branded innovation softened a little bit. Circana and Nielsen data show about 70% of North Americans agree private label quality is often similar to or sometimes better than national brands. And shoppers are responding. Circana data shows significant private brand dollar gains in the first half of 2025 versus 2024. Unit sales also made it into the green, and you see that branded sales were a bit stagnant. The momentum, though, has helped private brands capture more unit share across retail outlets, and it's leading to an anticipated $6 billion gain for the full year. So private brands are something to watch and consider. We've also watched brands strive to address the need for value through package sizing. So branded launches in pack sizes that were less than 12 ounces accounted for about half of the new product activity in the latest 52 weeks ending September. So brands are trying to help deliver value through price point. And in contrast, now private brands are also launching a significant number of new foods and beverages in the less than 12 ounce size, but the larger sizes, 12 to 15 ounce and 16 to 24 ounce, represented more introductions in the last year compared to prior. So for private brands, providing a price per ounce value is the tactic that they're using. From the shopper perspective, another approach to addressing their needs for value and quality is local sourcing. According to PricewaterhouseCoopers and TraceOne reports, about half of Americans and almost an equal number of Canadians are prioritizing domestic sources of the products that they buy in 2025. And TasteWise social listening data shows a 60% increase in the number of discussions about local flavors in food and beverage specifically. So we did talk to some folks here in the Kalamazoo area and ask them some questions about some of the cultural shifts. So let's listen to a short video clip to hear perspectives about the value of local. Just give me a moment to share that. Hi, we're here tonight at the Farmers Market in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Tonight is the last night of the night market, and we're talking to people about food and beverage trends. And in terms of the pricing, is it comparable or a little bit higher or lower?
You know what? It's maybe a little bit higher, but any kind of startup requires that kind of funding to make happen. So I'm happy to pay that premium to see this take place and experience it.
No, I think it feels good to kind of know exactly who's getting your money.
I love the market so much that it's one of those things that to me the value is more than the price. I come here for the experience and the people and the value and that sort of thing, and I don't pay as much attention to the price.
I'd say for the things that we've bought both this time and previously, probably a little bit higher. Not like so much that I don't want to buy, if that makes sense.
For the quality, it's definitely worth it. The quality's always better here.
I feel like even though sometimes maybe it's a little more expensive, the quality that you get here is incomparable to what you could get at a grocery store.
So the challenge, I think, for brands that are sold through traditional outlets is trying to capture some of those elements that people talked about. So making sure they understand the value, that they can have a relationship with the brand, and that there's something unique about what you have to offer. And we'll talk more about that as we go. So the appeal of local sourcing ties in with the next cultural shift that I want to talk about. And we've described it as let's get real. But the idea of realness has a few dimensions. So first, the phrase reflects a growing desire for in-person experiences. So the overall percentage of in-person retail spending is expected to decline from 77% this year to about 73% over the next 3 years. The store is still going to remain the dominant format for most people. So physical retail is estimated to contribute 3/4 of total retail dollars in 2025, and that's according to Euromonitor research. A global survey from Ernst & Young shows that across generations, most people continue to prefer in-person shopping at brick-and-mortar stores for food and beverage essentials. Now, this could be due to habit and familiarity, convenience, reliability, and just the favorite feelings they have for our grocery store or supermarket. This heat map from the same study shows the specific outlets used to source foods and drinks. The lighter colors indicate a higher percentage of usage, and so you see grocery stores and supermarkets are leading the way. In a 2025 McKinsey study, 47% of people globally say that buying from locally owned companies, though, is important to their purchase decision, and we see that it kind of ranks second for the foods and beverages there. And the report goes on to say that this trend is actually most pronounced in the Canadian and American markets for food and beverage. But people will still seek out options like markets or open-air shops that deliver positive experiences or can offer trusted advice. So beyond preferring brick and mortar, the idea of realness for shoppers is also about the characteristics of the foods and beverages that they buy. People are, as you know, increasingly skeptical of overprocessed or overpromised products. Concerns about ultra-processed foods and pesticide use are intensifying among 60% of shoppers, according to that PricewaterhouseCoopers 2025 report. Another survey in 2025 from Sprout Social captured more details about what real means to shoppers. So for half or more of the people in the study, real means that brands are open, they're clear, and they're honest about the products they make. It's not surprising. We know people want transparency. And in the context of foods and beverages, realness really helps them find products that tie to what they value, whether that's nature, culture, or tradition. So let's see how that desire for authenticity can influence decisions. I have another video here. Let me click over to that. And why do you come to the farmer's market?
There's so many local things that are delicious. And, we get to support our community as well, but also see what is available. And most of the time, it's the freshest of the food. The jams are amazing. Like, all of the produce that is here is wonderful to use in everyday life, but also it's so healthy, and it's farm to table as you can get.
I like how the vegetables are. Instead of going to the grocery store and them sitting there forever waiting for somebody to buy them, I can come here and get them fresh.
You're getting something that is craft made, it's like made with good ingredients. It's not just something that's mass produced. It's not something that's store bought. So there's the experience of coming here, but then you're also getting something that's much better.
I love the whole atmosphere, the focus on fresh local food.
I definitely feel like coming to the farmer's market gives me more real food in the sense that it's most likely coming from somewhere around here versus from the store. It's just coming from wherever they got it from. So I feel a little bit more connected to my food from the farmer's market.
It's so fresh here, I missed the market one week, and it's like, okay, I can still get those at Meijer, but it's not the same. And plus, when I buy things here, I can ask all sorts of questions about the produce or that particular variety, or
Just like seeing all the familiar faces, you have a relationship with the customers and the vendors. All of that, it just makes it like a whole experience buying your vegetables here rather than going to a grocery store, and it's so impersonal.
It's certainly different here. You get to experience the local eateries and a lot of the local gifts that Kalamazoo and the greater area have to offer. So I enjoy that.
We like it for all the localism, some of the opportunities to get stuff that's made really close to town, and actually unique things that couldn't be found in a big box store.
So you get a sense, you heard words like connection and relationship and trust. And finding ways to infuse that into a product that's sold through a traditional grocery is something to keep in mind as you look at your innovation planning. And so to address this need for transparency, one of the things we noticed is that brands are telling shoppers more about their products. In our last webinar, we explored some of the ways brands are sharing details about new foods and beverages, whether that's how the product offers a cultural connection, how it's unique, what's authentic about it, how it might be traditional, or even if it has transportive qualities so it can take you somewhere. So using Mintel's Global New Products database, we looked at North American launches across these different types of plot lines. And we've seen double-digit growth, sometimes significant, in products that are offering this detail compared to last year. But there's a lot of upside for brands to share more information along these themes. And we can tell from, at least from that qualitative research, that these types of themes really do resonate with people. You can see less than 10% of launches talking about any of them. The storylines can support that next cultural shift we want to talk about: discovery. People love the thrill of finding something new before it hits mainstream. It might be an underdog fruit or a heritage ingredient or an indie brand that feels like a hidden gem. These discoveries spark excitement and they give shoppers a sense of kind of being in on something special. Now, ANOVA reports that almost half of North Americans are willing to try new flavors, so there's definitely an appetite for it. And posts about new flavors are up 40% in the last year, according to TasteWise. About 4 in 10 Americans and Canadians report trying new brands in the last year, according to a study from Capital One. And for most of those who tried something new, they plan to continue exploring. So the cultural enthusiasm about finding diamonds in the marketplace is definitely affecting the food and beverage category. Bain & Company publishes an annual assessment of insurgent brands. They define an insurgent brand as a fast-moving consumer good company that is disrupting their category by meeting an unmet need, and they typically have a strong founder-led mission. Insurgents, according to Bain & Company, must generate over $25 million in annual revenue, be growing more than 10 times the category average over 5 years, and importantly, they remain independent or have been acquired within just the last 2 years. So when you look at the data, insurgent food brands in the US in 2025 represented about 1% of the landscape, but they captured 27% of the growth in food categories. And the power of new and the joy of discovery is also affecting non-alcoholic drinks, where insurgent brands generated almost 1/3 of category growth, but they have less than 3% of the marketplace. So these are really workhorses. So let's hear and watch how people light up when they talk about food and beverage discoveries. What are some interesting flavors that caught your eye here?
They have a lot of different things that you wouldn't think about. Like I believe it's called QQ melons. They're actually like mini cucumbers.
Well, I just heard the popcorn guy talking about dill pickle popcorn, and I love anything dill pickle flavored, so that definitely caught my attention for sure.
You know, everything is new and exciting, and you get to travel through your taste buds. So it's a good experience.
Yeah, it's from the UP or the Great Lakes up there, Lake Superior, Michigan, and it's good quality stuff. They process it, make it into a spread. I like the whitefish.
Yes, I'm also like an ambassador for ground cherries. It's a produce that I was introduced to here at the market by one of the vendors. And then this year I grew them for the first time. And I'm always taking them places and introducing them to people because not too many people know about that produce. They have a little paper covering, kind of like tomatillos. So you open, you're not sure, is it going to be ripe or not? It's like a surprise. And the paper kind of protects them. So you like carry them around. You don't have to worry, like, are they washed or not? You open, it's like good to go.
I always try to find like the unique healthy things. So it's always fun to see people do like gluten-free or vegan or I don't know, fun stuff like that.
Well, we just stopped at an artisanal cheese shop that had a stinging nettle Gouda, and that was fantastic.
I've seen a lot of different flavors. Some of the things I've seen are like caramelized onion, Gruyere type things, spinach, feta, lots of things with brown butter. A lot of bakers will use that, which is cool and not something you normally find in stores and such like that, but it increases like the flavor profile so much.
International foods. Cairo's Kitchen, I found actually it was the second one this year, and I'm obsessed with it. It's Egyptian food. But yeah, even the authentic Mexican, I love that. I love trying international foods. I like that there's an array here.
Certainly more diversity in the flavors. I like to branch out in the kinds of things that I eat and try. So yeah, it's definitely more diverse than maybe your generic fast food places.
So you can definitely hear the excitement as they talked about some of the things that they had found in the farmers market. And I think that carries over to their experience at retail as well. So some food and beverage brands that are sold in traditional channels are responding to this desire for discovery, and they're relying on flavor innovation. This chart is busy. I'm going to walk us through it. The chart aggregates data from Mintel, and it looks at the percent change in launch activity, so the number of new items shown in blue, and then the percent change in the number of flavors that's shown in green. And I've pulled data from a range of categories. In foods, we looked at frozen desserts and dairy, snacks, bakery, prepared meals, and health-focused supplement products. In beverage, we looked at coffee and tea, both hot and cold, carbonated soft drinks, nutritional drinks, including juices, alcohol-flavored water, and sports and energy drinks. When flavor introductions, so the green bar, when that's growing faster than product launches, it tells us that flavor is doing the heavy lifting for innovation. Brands are finding growth through line extensions, seasonal flavors, or limited editions rather than entirely new formats, in part because sometimes offering a new flavor can be a little bit faster, less costly, and lower risk to execute. So in bakery, for example, new product launches rose 5% in the last year, but flavor launches jumped 12%. This gap tells us that brands are innovating through flavor more than format. And often when a product category is mature, discovery is going to happen through taste. So a new cinnamon maple cookie or a tropical loaf cake feels fresh even if that category isn't new. In health-focused supplements, we see the reverse. New product launches are up about 25%, but new flavors only grew 5%. This tells us that some of the innovation energy in the category is growing into functional claims and delivery formats, so not flavor experiences. This will be interesting to watch as the sector matures, because we might see that imbalance becoming more of an opportunity. So taste and enjoyment could be the next frontier for differentiation. In sports and energy drinks, we're seeing a different signal altogether. New product launches dropped about 1% and new flavors dropped 3%. This tells us the category is starting to consolidate. After years of really explosive growth, brands are simplifying their portfolios, getting rid of things that don't sell, and focusing on velocity rather than variety. So innovation here is shifting from flavor toward maybe functionality and certainly brand experience. Alcohol also shows a different type of signal. So product launches are up 15%, but the number of new flavors dropped by 2%. So brands are innovating through form and positioning, not flavor. After years of flavor saturation, especially across categories like hard seltzers and RTD cocktails, innovation is starting to shift toward characteristics like higher quality ingredients, ABV, or premium stories. So it's not always about more flavors, it's about creating a better experience. Now, remember though, we saw and heard just a minute ago about the appeal of new flavors and how brands that address a specific need are going to create connections. So there's always room for flavor innovation, whether you mine places like the farmers market for innovation, or you turn to other resources like AI. So AI represents our fourth cultural shift, and it accounts for almost $6 billion in revenue for North America. It's anticipated to grow really rapidly through 2030. That revenue actually represents the value of solutions like AI-enabled systems, software, and analytical tools for production, R&D, or even retail. Now, in the world of food and beverage right now, various sources tell us that about 1/4 of Americans are using AI platforms to help with meal planning. And more than half say that they review AI-generated food recommendations, although that's usually in a food service setting. When we look at the Canadian market, slightly more of them report using AI for holiday meal planning, reduce the stress of which menu item to offer. And then we also see fewer turning to platforms for food recommendations. But overall, curiosity about AI is really high, as is concern. In food and beverage product development, this tension shows up as a mix of appetite for bold, futuristic blends paired with the need for something that anchors them to familiarity. They want to feel safe, and it has to be human. It's about balancing innovation with reassurance. So here's some perspectives, one last video clip about where AI fits in food and beverage product development. What do you think about the idea of using AI to come up with food and beverage ideas?
I think, as with all technologies, it can be, very hit and miss, and it really, even with AI, it still requires that human touch to really determine, like, is this a good idea? Is this something we should do? At the end of the day, there's no replacing, like, computers and AI can't replace the experiences that we're having. So probably a great idea for like idea generation, but certainly still needs that close touch, that close intervention of knowledgeable people behind the scenes to make the final decision.
I think maybe it'd be a good idea because it might bring something new to the table that maybe we can't do over here. Maybe we haven't thought of.
I'm like a little on the slow train to jump on it, but I think I can see the benefit of using it for like brainstorming purposes. So
I think that's probably one of the better use case scenarios for it. I don't see any reason not to. Might as well use the tools that we have at our disposal. So,
well, AI is not my favorite as a Christian.
So far, what I've seen of artificial intelligence, it's on my cell phone, the Smarter Than Me phone, and they preempt anything I'm searching with what they think the subject is, and it's weak. Their analysis is weak. It's just like, I am not into AI, except for old school AI, artificial insemination when we worked on the farm.
I think it depends on what part of the process it would be in. Like, I know large language models and like pattern finding algorithms are really good for like factory efficiency or for like finding patterns and how things naturally grow. So I think that's like really exciting. But when it comes to the human element of determining like how to package or what flavors go well together, I would prefer it to be in more of the production aspect more than like that planning or that like element where I feel you need a human to kind of guide the process.
I'm also not super into AI, but I do think it's interesting to like just experiment with different flavors or recipes using AI. I think that's interesting, something I've never thought about.
I would be concerned about what the AI would come up with. It only takes one dedicated Reddit thread of trolls to throw the entire algorithm off balance.
Using it to develop food and beverage, like maybe creating ideas with this, a good idea, because sometimes there are things AI thinks of that we would never consider.
So you can see from this yin and yang about AI, but we know AI is going to shape the future. I think when it comes to food and beverage product development, though, people still want to ground innovation in something and someone that they can trust. So in terms of how brands are currently responding to AI, here are a few stats that give us some insight into the current landscape. Kantar reports that about 2/3 of CPG firms are scaling generative AI, and almost 90% have specific budgets focusing on marketing, digital commerce, and sales. Those are the top areas of investment, according to Kantar. But according to Rockwell Automation, 70% of CPG manufacturers are also investing in AI plus robotics in 2025 to support long-term growth and production efficiencies, like the young lady mentioned in the video. PricewaterhouseCoopers research reveals that 40% of shoppers expect to use AI for shopping by 2030. And about 2/3 of millennials say they plan to order more online using AI or predictive tech. So here's a summary of the state of AI applications in food and beverage after reviewing a lot of industry reports. So there's still some upside for product recommendations, for quality monitoring and replenishment. And it seems like it's early days for package optimization or procurement. But with that 40% anticipated CAGR that we saw, I envision that these are going to be moving along pretty rapidly. So the cultural signals that we just reviewed explain what's affecting shoppers' food and beverage decisions. But we want to turn to flavor experience to talk about how people want to engage with food and drink. The first flavor experience that we see becoming increasingly desirable is one that we titled Forged in Flavor. People are gravitating toward rustic, hearty, substantial cues. So think roasted apples in a protein bar, or oat-based textures in baked goods, or even orchard flavors in ice creams. The second experience is savoring solo. We know that a lot more people are living alone. Some are designing personal rituals around food. So flavor can turn those rituals into indulgent moments. So dark chocolate in a protein shake, or a pistachio latte at home, or even a single serve cheesecake cup. These flavors often make me time feel really rewarding. We're also predicting increase in interest in what we call tastes in motion. People really like participatory experiences that are customizable, hands-on, and focused on experimentation. So from a brand perspective, interactivity could be something like incorporating some effervescence into a powder that you can then add the amount that you desire. You could include topping options to a cupcake mix, or maybe even an AI story on pack that you access via QR code, and it talks about the origins of the ingredients in a mocktail. These are all tactics that give people agency and the sense of fun that they crave. And then lastly, we're also anticipating increased interest in connecting with others, whether it's at a potluck, a supper club, or through a cook-along kit. Food and beverage they're unifiers. So gathering in flavor can also include micro celebrations that create shared joy. So maybe it's something like birthday cake gummies that you share with coworkers, or seasonal donuts that you bring in, or even root beer float ice cream as fall emerges to remind you of summer. So as we monitor the cultural signals, we also need to consider shopper expectations. So these are the non-negotiables that shapes what gets chosen in store or even online. These expectations can become guardrails for food and beverage product development, and they cluster into 3 themes. So first, there's this idea of affordable indulgence. This isn't a new idea, but it's still essential for 2026, because even with budgets tight, people still want little treats. So if you choose to innovate around this theme, then comfort flavors like maple cream, apple cinnamon, or chocolate fudge can often deliver indulgence, but at a fair price, depending on the category. Second is this idea of discovery that we talked about earlier. You saw shoppers light up when they talked about finding hidden gems. So flavors like cloudberry in a functional gummy, or calamansi in a soda, or black currant in a frozen dessert can often spark curiosity and sometimes conversation. It's good to go viral sometimes. And then third, this idea of authenticity. We heard that people want reassurance that products are grounded in real foods, not over-processed promises. So flavors with whole food cues like wild blueberry or elderflower, fresh basil, sun-ripened tomato, all of those flavors communicate naturalness and help build credibility. So how do we move from cultural signals to products people crave? Well, it starts with the signals themselves. Interest in addressing the shopper squeeze might point you to affordable indulgence, while if you decide to focus on discovery, maybe that pushes you into finding hidden gem flavors that feel new and exciting. But from there, we think about the experience that you want to deliver. Rustic flavors can create that really valuable satiety. It's a benefit that more shoppers are looking for, while planning around solo indulgence can help turn a product into a rewarding ritual, and you can create that through some of your positioning. But then we do look at shopper expectations. We know people want to trust the food and drinks they buy, and they value whole food cues from ingredients and flavor profiles, often with stories like garden herbs, sun-ripened fruits, stone-milled grains. All of that reinforces that sense of authenticity that they really crave. And then finally, it's about execution. Speed matters, but so does confidence. That means partnering with suppliers that can offer quick sampling, regulatory alignment, and technical expertise to take an idea from the bench to the shelf. This is the process that connects cultural insights to flavor experiences, and flavor experiences to successful launches. We know that flavor systems have to perform in the real world. That means they need to work across complex bases, from dairy and plant proteins to botanicals, vitamins, and minerals. And they have to deliver great taste in both indulgent and functional foods, as we saw early on. Flavors also need to be engineered for stability. So whether it's baking, freezing, carbonation, or pasteurization, flavors must hold up through processing so that the taste approved at the bench is the same one that people enjoy in their home. And finally, versatility matters. So emulsions can bring both cloud and flavor to beverages, for example. Masking agents will create smoother taste in reduced sugar or plant-based products. And modulators can balance sweetness, boost creaminess, and enhance mouthfeel across categories. It's this combination of science and creativity that helps transform flavor ideas into products that succeed in the marketplace. But innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum. It has to work with a changing regulatory landscape, and there's a lot of that going on now. So that's where proactive guidance really makes the difference. You know, it's important to stay current with FDA, TTB, and global frameworks, and anticipate compliance needs early in your development process so you're not caught off guard later. And we're all preparing for change. The FDA's ban on BVO took effect this year. Red number 3 is being phased out, and we see that definitions around the word healthy are still evolving. Each of these affects how products are flavored, labeled, and how you position them to your shoppers. And finally, documentation matters. So clear, timely information doesn't just accelerate approvals, it also builds confidence with your internal teams and with regulators. By integrating compliance into innovation from the start, that helps build confidence that the flavors you choose today will be viable tomorrow. So across everything we've discussed today, one theme stands out for creating foods and beverages that people want. Flavor is the bridge. It connects science, functionality, and nutrition to everyday taste experiences people actually enjoy. And we've talked about how cultural and flavor signals matter. The 2026 shifts that we highlighted about affordability and discovery, authenticity and experience, those are really more than trends. They can be guideposts for you to help you focus innovation where it will resonate the most. And finally, innovation does require partnership. Success doesn't come from one team working in isolation. It happens when R&D, marketing, and trusted partners collaborate to translate these signals into products that connect with people. So as you're exploring ideas for 2026 or even 2027, let's keep the conversation going. We'd love to explore how these insights and flavor solutions can help you create what people crave. So that concludes what we have to talk about today. Let's move into our Q&A. Let me see if I have any questions. Okay, so I did get a couple. The first one says, are private brands innovating in flavor as much as national brands? In general, no. Brands are still leading the way in North American flavor innovation. I looked at a couple of larger categories to see if private brand flavor innovation is picking up. In carbonated soft drinks, for example, private brand flavor innovation is actually a bit soft. And then in a big category like flavored water, private brand flavors are actually flat versus last year. So they haven't really upped the flavor innovation there. But if you have a question about a specific category that you'd like me to investigate, just put it in the Q&A with your email and I'll get back to you with the details. And one more. It says, which of the cultural shifts is most significant for 2026? Well, each of the shifts is really important to consider. Frankly, I don't know that I would weigh one over the other. I mean, it's about how will you address shopper needs for value? What can you share about your brand that reinforces authenticity? And that reinforcement, by the way, contributes to your value. How might you add some sense of excitement through flavor? Also a way to increase value. And then this idea of incorporating AI, untested, but certainly growing and something to think about for 2026 and beyond. So I don't see any more questions. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the session. Hope you have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching this episode of Flavor Science from FlavorSome. Whether you want to formulate with a tried and true flavor or innovate with a brand new creation, having a great flavor partner accelerates your success. At FlavorSome, we combine expertise, responsiveness, and infrastructure to deliver an all-in-one solution that helps growing food and beverage companies improve their speed to market. Part of our mission is making flavor sourcing more efficient, effective, and enjoyable with best-in-class responsiveness, competitive lead times, and products designed to meet your goals. Work with us to create the delicious new products your customers are craving.